This is Mike Wolf, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Entrepreneurs Making a Difference, where we connect entrepreneurs from all over the globe so they can collaborate and do great things and make a difference on this planet of ours. So today I've got a guest from South Carolina. His name is Jim Kirwan. I'm going to read his bio. He launched Get America Moving in January after stepping down from his previous position as CEO of Tri-Sports. His mission is to quite literally get America moving. And he held his first webinar last Tuesday and launched his first product. He now has a book agreement with Morgan James and he's submitting his manuscript next week. 2 further projects are coming down the pipeline for this year, including a comprehensive support and coaching program. And so he says that you can put your aging accelerator firmly into reverse and transform your life by the actions you take. And he says there's 4 key drivers: knowledge, nutrition, exercise, and the X Factor. We're going to find out more about that. He'll be revealing the X Factor in his book, but he's created an acronym, which is RECIPE, the 6 ingredients of the X Factor. So he's also planning on holding some competitions. And so I'm very excited to have you here, Jim. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's super to be here.
So you've obviously got a really important mission. Obviously, people quite often, especially entrepreneurs, we tend to sometimes ignore our health because we're always doing the business side of things, and we tend to not always have the most balanced lives. And I'm guilty of that myself, I've got to admit. So you've got a big undertaking. I mean, a lot of, especially North Americans, we're obese, we're lazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Not just North Americans. Unfortunately,
no, that's true.
It's right across the world. I'm from Ireland, in Europe, and it's really the same. You know, it's the same in the UK, it's the same in Europe, it's the same in Australia, it's the same everywhere, and it's a terrible position that we've got ourselves into in the year 2014. It's kind of amazing because there's been so much progress in the world over the past 20, 30, 40 years that, you know, things have gone wrong. Lots of good things, lots of great developments, but unfortunately some negative byproducts, and the whole inactivity, what I call the inactivity epidemic, is a very important part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are your, we don't want to, I guess you probably don't want to give away your entire book here on the show, but can you talk a little bit more about that X Factor? That kind of had me interested when I read that. Or are you keeping that a secret?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the X Factor, but I don't want to go into it in too much detail because I have great plans to, as part of the whole promotion for the book, to have some competitions to get people to try and figure out what the X Factor is. But you know, I'll give some thoughts on it because it's pretty obvious, really, at the end of the day. The recipe is an acronym, and there are 6 ingredients from my perspective in the X Factor, and these are the things that you need to have. If you have them, you will succeed. Now, when I talk about you will succeed, I'm talking about transforming your life into a healthy and active life. I mean, a lot of people would like to be healthy, and a lot of people would like to be active. Unfortunately, what people like to do and what they actually do are not consistent. There isn't congruence between those 2 things for a lot of people. So you referred earlier to the 4 key drivers. Exercise is a really critical driver, and it goes hand in hand with nutrition. The 3rd one is knowledge, the importance of knowing things. I mean, if you know stuff, you can take actions that are the right kinds of actions. But the X Factor is, if you like, the thing that underpins all of those 3. And it's really all about motivation. It's really all about what's in your head and wanting to do this. I mean, I'll give you one of the 6 ingredients because it's a really important one in my view. C is for cause. You need to have a cause. You need to have some reason to want to do this stuff. It could be, you know, I was listening to Mel earlier, it could be to do with your daughter. It could be to do with that girl who was a karate black belt who got abused. You know, if you can find a cause that you can kind of rally around and really make it important for you, then you're going to make things happen and you're going to be successful. So the recipe are 6 ingredients like the cause, which when you add together are going to allow you to take this thing forward and be successful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, because sometimes we need something bigger than ourselves. If we have a bigger cause, a bigger reason to do something, we'll take action. A lot of times for ourselves, we seem to care more about other people or other causes, sometimes more than we take care of ourselves. And I was actually talking with Glenn Morshower the other day, and he's the star of the show 24. And one of the things he says that I find really profound is he says, we take better care of our cars and what we put in our cars than what we put into our own bodies. And cars are, of course, replaceable and fixable. We only get one of us, and that's kind of ironic. And I never really thought of it that way until he said it. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. I mean, this is what the driver knowledge is all about. Unfortunately, we're fed all kinds of misleading and confusing information, whether it's about exercise, whether it's about nutrition, whether it's about health. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, again, going back to your previous interview, you were talking about the government and what they're not doing. And I mean, I think it's a scandal what's going on the nutrition side, what's going on the inactivity side, and what's going on with respect to health, whether it's to do with drugs. I mean, there are just so many things going on out there, and unless we take action ourselves, so we need to educate ourselves and then to take the actions to put ourselves in the right position. But I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, we're doing crazy things with ourselves. 70% of the American population are now overweight, and half of those are obese. It's mind-blowing to me. I just can't get my head around it sometimes. And yet we're allowing this to happen. We've got an obesity epidemic, diabetes, Alzheimer's coming down the track, That's scary for a lot of people. Alzheimer's starts about 30 years before it's diagnosed. So if it's diagnosed in your 80s, it's actually beginning to happen when you're in your 50s. When I heard that, I was blown away, and it kind of made me think, gosh, I really need to do something for myself about some of these things.
Yeah, well, you look extremely fit, especially for somebody your age. Not that you're old. I didn't mean it that way, but you look extremely fit. And is this something you've always been passionate about your whole life, or is this something that you got into later on in life, or how did this all come?
Well, I think the driver goes back to when I was 20 years. I had just passed my 20th birthday, not a care in the world, when out of the blue my dad died of a massive coronary. He was 47 at the time. And that was a huge shock to my system. And I suppose since then I've really been very aware of health, the issues like heredity, like everybody was saying to me, Jim, you need to watch out because, if he died at 47, there's a good chance that you're going to die early unless you do something about it. So I've been very conscious of that whole issue. He didn't exercise. A lot of people, when they hit their 30s, their early 30s, they stop what I call planned exercise. Maybe they were playing some kind of football, ball, or basketball, or maybe they were playing, I don't know, hockey or some kind of field sport or track and field, but they were doing something where they were competitive. And then all of a sudden they stop. They retire from playing the game, but they retire completely from exercise in many cases. My dad played the occasional game of golf, went for the odd walk. That was to some extent of the exercise that he did from the moment he retired to the 15 years later when he died. And I see that repeated all across the world. It happens in Ireland, it happens in America. I just see people, for whatever reason, seem to think that they have to stop exercising. And they don't seem to get the connection between the importance of activity and all of the health benefits associated with it. So you said I look healthy. I'm not competitive as an athlete or anything like that. I just walk the talk. I just keep myself healthy. I exercise 6 days a week, sometimes 7, probably about 7 hours in total. I do strength exercises. I do some intensity stuff. I do a lot of aerobic, but I keep myself in good shape. I eat the right food. I'm not fanatical about it. I eat black chocolate. I drink red wine. I try to enjoy my life, but have perspective and balance about it. And I think so many people could do that.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and that's just it. It doesn't mean you have to give up everything.
No.
It's all about a balance, and you have to have some pleasures in life, or you kind of go up the deep end. You get on, people go on these crash diets. January 1st rolls around, their New Year's resolution, I'm going to work out every day. And for 2 days, they go and work out 2 hours. And then they stop doing it because it's too time consuming. I think it's a lot more impressive when you do 20 minutes or 30 minutes, consistently, as opposed to going on these crazy, all or nothing sort of binges.
It's mad. It has to become a lifestyle. It has to become something that you really want to do and that you're going to enjoy for the rest of your life. Otherwise, why the hell would you do it? It makes no sense to kind of keep, depriving yourself of food. And people talk about exercise as being a pain in the butt or a chore. I think exercise is fantastic. I love exercise. It's the best part of my day. And all of the people who are in the camp that I'm in who love exercise feel exactly the same way. So the question the people who don't like exercise have to answer is, how do I get myself out of the majority who don't exercise enough and into the minority who do and who love it and have a great time doing it? I mean, that's the truth. I mean, if you look at the people who exercise a lot, to a man and a woman, they love it. They're addicted to it. It's part of what they are.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the benefits aren't just the physical benefits. It's the mental benefits. I find I get a lot of clarity when I'm working out. Not only that, I'm either listening to educational stuff, or I'm reading, and I'm drinking more water. I'm staying more hydrated. So there's a lot of different things that if I miss a day of working out, I'm missing out on a lot of other things. It's not just the actual physical exercise itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I see myself as at my most creative when I go out and exercise, and I usually come back and I run in here into my office and I write down the ideas that came into my mind before I forget them, because I come up with some amazing ideas when I'm out there, and that's what exercise is about.
Yeah, well, I find when I'm at the gym quite often, I find myself emailing myself so I can remember some of the thoughts that come into my brain while I'm doing it. And so my last interview, I was talking to somebody, how the best ideas come up to you sometimes when you're in the shower. It's always when you're not really in business mode that you come up with your best stuff. When you're actually trying to strategize, you don't have that clarity. It always comes to you at least, the most unexpected times, really.
Yeah, and I mean, if you get agitated, if you get frustrated about things, or something's bugging you, or you've just had a row with something, the best way to clear the air, go out, whether it's a walk, a run, a ride, a swim, it doesn't really matter what it is, but go out and have some exercise, and all of a sudden you'll come back and you'll make it up and you'll be pals again and you can get on with your life, and it's great. Absolutely.
So tell me about your book. I believe it's called Anyone Can Exercise. Is that correct?
It's provisionally called Anyone Can Exercise. I really would love to find a more comprehensive title, but the title has to be pretty succinct. So, Morgan James may change the title. They may want to change the title because it gives the impression that the book is only about exercise. And exercise is a key part of the book, but it's not just about exercise. It's about those other drivers, those other important things that you need to do. The X factor is one whole part of the book. So there's quite a lot of stuff in the book, but I'm really excited about it because it's given me an opportunity to really put all of my thoughts, which have been built up over really 40 years, or the best part of 40 years, and to put them down on paper in a way that I hope people can resonate with. I mean, I believe that people can really change their lives if they want to. I really believe that. And the book will, I think, encourage people to take a good hard look at themselves and ask themselves some searching questions about where they're at and where they're trying to go. And again, going back to Mel, I mean, there was a huge overlap. I mean, I was intrigued at some of the things that he was saying, because what he was saying was exactly the same from my perspective about, it's not a destination, it's a journey. I talk about step by step, day by day, week by week. We're all impatient to want to achieve things now. And we have to think about, if you're overweight, if you're 50 pounds overweight, you're not going to sort of get down to the right or normal weight probably within a year or two. It's going to take a long time. If you do it healthily, it's probably going to take a long time. So you should be okay with that. Go with the flow. Work towards where you're trying to get to because that's the new lifestyle, and it's going to take time, and be okay with it. It took 20 years to put on the weight. You can't expect it to sort of be taken off in 20 days.
Yeah, that's really true.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I just want to tell the viewers, Jim keeps referring to Mel, and so I did an interview with a good friend of mine named Mel Abraham. So if you haven't seen that interview, make sure you check it out. It's a phenomenal interview, if I do say so myself. But so why do you feel exercise is so important? What are some of the key benefits from exercising?
Well, I mean, the reason I think it's so important, there are some positive reasons, but unfortunately there's some negative reasons. I mean, the positive reasons are, I kind of referred to a little bit earlier. We all know that exercise is good for us, but we don't often do what we know. We don't often put into practice the things that we know. And there isn't that congruence, as I mentioned earlier. And as a result of that, the inactivity that exists in the world, what I refer to as the inactivity epidemic, has resulted in many health problems. And it's those health problems that are a serious challenge for people. I mean, we really need to sort out some of these issues. And so in many respects, it's getting people to really understand what they need to do and how they can get healthy through exercise and good nutrition is why it's so important, if that makes sense. I mean, I think people will say, yeah, exercise is important, but we're not paying enough attention to it. We're not treating it seriously enough. You know, in the new, the government will be shortly coming out with new physical activity guidelines, and I think there's going to be a word, for the first time they're going to say that exercise is critical to your health. And that to me says it all, because it is critical to your health, but a lot of people behave as if it isn't. And I think it's this short-term thing that, you know, they're putting off the evil day and maybe hoping, you know, putting it under the carpet and hoping it'll never happen. But, you know, it is going to happen if you don't set yourself up for success now, as whether in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, the chances are you're not going to have a great time when you get into your 70s and your 80s or your 90s or whatever it will be.
Yeah, so true, so true. So one of the questions, I know there's kind of a debate regarding cardio. I guess explain what that debate is all about, first of all, and how you feel on that topic.
Okay. Well, and this sort of talks to this issue of confusion. There's a lot of confusion out there. You know, cardio is aerobic exercise. Aerobic activity are things like walking, running, swimming, cycling, spinning, rowing, kayaking, skiing. You know, all of those activities are, in my book, aerobic activity or cardio. But there's another school of thought which says that cardio is not good for you and that you should only be doing high intensity training, that it's, in other words, quality rather than quantity. And there is some truth to the fact that higher intensity exercise is important. It is important, but you can only do so much of it, especially if you're older, if you're overweight, and if you're out of shape. If you're out of shape and overweight, the last thing you want to be doing is going to a track and trying to sprint up and down the track. So you need to go at things slowly and gradually and set yourself up for success. And then over time, you gradually increase the intensity when you're able to do it. So I'm totally against people who would say that cardio is bad for you and cardio is a waste of time. It's not. It's much better than doing nothing. And I think it's kind of disgraceful that they're actually allowed to get away with saying stuff like that, because it confuses people. They're going, oh, if cardio is bad for me, maybe I shouldn't be going out for my walk. You know, maybe I need to do the higher intensity stuff, but I can't do that either. So, well, so what do I do? So, you know, so in my book, cardio is really important. It's the cornerstone, but you need to introduce things like strength, like intensity. So I have another acronym which I refer to as the basics. If you'd like me to go through the basics very quickly for you.
We can't get the recipe, so we have to learn the basics.
Yeah, so the basics are the different types or kinds of exercise that you need to do. And B stands for baseline exercise. Now, baseline exercise is all of the unplanned exercise that you do from the moment you get up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night, excluding planned exercise. So it's walking up the stairs. It's, you know, walking into the bathroom. It's going out to pick up the paper. It's going out to the car, getting into the car, going to the office, getting out of the car, walking up to your office or whatever. All of that stuff is called baseline exercise. And the problem with baseline exercise is that it has been totally decimated in the past 30 or 40 years. All the changes, all the new technology, all of the new processes that we've introduced. I mean, think about online shopping. Think about drive-thrus, fast food drive-thrus. We've introduced a whole load of conveniences which have taken out a lot of that baseline activity. And that is a huge problem. So we need to pay a lot more attention to baseline activity. So there are things that we can do. You mentioned water earlier on. You know, drink more water. It'll mean it's good for you, number one, but it'll mean you have to go to the bathroom more often. The fact that you have to go to the bathroom means you'll get up from your desk and go for a walk, take a 5-minute or a 10-minute break. You hear people like Brendan Bouchard saying that all the time, by the way.
That's right, the High Performance Academy. That's right.
Sitting has become the new smoking. We all spend, I mean, the average is 64 hours a week sitting. That's 9 hours a day. I suspect that that's understated, by the way, because so many people just spend their whole lives sitting, and that's really dangerous. So B is for baseline, really important. A is for aerobic. We've already talked about that, so it's really important too. S is for strength. The importance of strength, of keeping yourself strong, especially as you grow older, because you lose muscle mass from the age of 30. And I think it's not a coincidence that because people retire in their early 30s, they start losing the muscle mass. They stop doing the exercise they used to do when they were more competitive. They lose the muscle mass, and then when they get to their 50s, they're not able to do anything. But when I say that, it's never too late. You can start today and improve your strength. There's lots of things that you can do, but strength is really, really important. So BAS, I is for intensity. So you do need to introduce some intensity. We had that debate between cardio and higher intensity. So intensity is important. C is for cross-training. So as you get into exercise, the more you get into it, it's not a great idea to just focus on the same thing all the time. So runners, for example, just run. After a while, they begin to get injured from repetitive exercise. It's a good thing for them to maybe do some biking or some spinning or some swimming. So cross-training is very important. It helps also to build the muscles so that you have good core, stronger body overall, rather than just strength in your legs, for example. And then finally, S is for stretching or flexibility, the importance of stretching and flexibility. So when you put all of those things together, you are going to be exercising correctly. I'm just about to launch a new blog, which I'm going to call the Exercise GPA, because this is the time of the year that all the kids out there are getting their GPA score, and 4.0 is the sort of the desired target. So I'm going to do a blog which will allow people to calculate their exercise GPA and where do they rank on each of those basics and where do they rank overall. And if you're a 2, you've some work to do. If you're a 3, you're pretty good, but you've room for improvement. If you're a 4, fantastic. If you're a 1, you need to start doing something about it.
For sure. I mean, absolutely. The last thing you want is for sometimes the universe tells you that you need to start taking care of your health, and you always want to be proactive as opposed to being in that position. And last year I had a bit of a scare myself, and I realized I had to slow down on the work part and take more time for the health part. And sometimes we wait till it's too late before we make those changes. So I think it's really, the stuff you're teaching is just imperative.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no guarantees. Even if you do all of the right things, there's still no guarantees, but you increase your chances dramatically. You load the odds, you load the dice in your favor, and that's what we need to try and do.
Oh, so true. So if somebody's listening and they're just starting out, maybe they've never exercised before, what's a good way to get started? What's a good way to get into it?
Well, I mean, one thing that they could do if they wanted to, they could go to my website, and I have a 30-day exercise challenge, which is totally free. And there's 3 routes that you can go. If they're completely inactive and haven't been exercising for a while, they should go for program 1, which is really for people who are starting out. And it's a combination of walking and strength exercises. It's building up to 3 hours, which is, in my view, the minimum amount of activity you should do per week. So 3 hours of exercise a week, including some strength, half an hour of strength, 2.5 hours of walking. So it's very realistic for anyone. Now, a lot of people will say that they don't have the time. Well, the answer to that one is that they'll make the time for high priorities. They'll make time, always make time for things that are important in their life. So exercise needs to become more important. I mean, if people are using that as a reason for why they can't exercise, they have to take a good look at themselves. And this is where it comes back to, I referred to the cause. I mean, if you have a really important cause, all of a sudden you're going to promote exercise into one of your high priorities, and you're going to get it done. Because again, the people who like exercise and who have no trouble exercising have the same time constraints as everybody else. It's just that for them, exercise is important and it's a high priority in their life. So, you know, start out slow, start out gradually, build it up step by step, day by day, week by week. See it as a longer-term lifestyle, sustained lifestyle change, not something to sort of rush into, because I've seen so many people go down that road and then get injured after a week or two, or it's so hard, they don't enjoy it. You need to enjoy it. You need to really get a mindset that exercise is going to be fun and enjoyable and entertainment and something you look forward to every day. And if you get that mindset, you'll transform your life because you want to do it. You look forward to wanting to do it every day. Do it with some other people. Don't do it by yourself. I mean, it is good to go out by yourself every other day, but get into the habit of exercising with other people. It's much more fun. You make some great friends. You can build relationships. You can even build relationships within your family, with your wife or your spouse or your kids. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think it also makes you more accountable, because if you're somebody's partner for going walking or running or whatever it is, they're going to expect you to be there, and you make each other show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it really does. It's easy to sort of say, I won't go today if it's raining or it's a bit cold, or if it's a bit, where I am, if it's a bit hot. Yeah, maybe I won't go today. But if you've got an appointment with somebody else, then you kind of have to go. And nearly always when you go, you feel much better afterwards, and you're glad you did.
Oh, of course. You always feel so much better after working out.
You really do.
So I'm going to change the topic a little bit here, and because this is called Entrepreneurs Making a Difference, what sort of things, what lights you up? What would you like to change on this planet? What sort of things would you like to do, or have you been doing to make a difference?
Well, I mean, I've been, I suppose, an entrepreneur for quite a long time now. I started off my career, my work career as a banker, and I worked in the human resource management area, and I did that for about 18 or 19 years. So in 1990, I left the bank to create my own business in the HR area. I provided a range of HR, human resource management services, personnel management, whatever term people would be familiar with, to the financial services sector back in Dublin and Ireland. And that was my introduction to the entrepreneur world. And I suppose what I always wanted to do, for me, what was critically important was providing people with a great service. I would describe myself as a sort of a customer service, what's the right word that I'm looking for? I mean, I'm hyper about service. If I go to a restaurant, I expect to get a great service, and if I do get a great service, I'm going to look after the waiter. If I don't get a great service, I'm probably going to complain. You know, that principle applies to everything that I want to do. I want things to be done really well, and entrepreneurs have a wonderful opportunity to really stand out and provide great service to their customers, to their clients. So, you know, I did that for about 12 years, and then I came to America to set up Try Sports, and Try Sports was more consistent with what I'm now doing. The idea behind Try Sports was to encourage people to try sports, and it's a specialty retail business, and I set up my first store back in 2004 here in Mount Pleasant in South Carolina. And Tri-Sports very quickly differentiated itself from the crowd through the quality of the service that we provided. And we did things differently. We set up systems and processes that, I think now lots of others have followed. And it was all about providing great customer service. That was the kernel, that was the keystone to what entrepreneurship for me was about. And that will follow through in my new business and Get America Moving. I mean, the whole idea behind that is to try and make a difference. I want to touch more people. I see this huge problem, this huge issue. I believe that I have the solution to the problem. I think it's not as difficult as people think it is. It's a matter of making some behavioral changes, but things that are good, that lots of other people enjoy, and it can be done. And I so firmly believe that it's possible to get to this place that so many people want to get to, that I want to facilitate that journey for people. I have 40 years of experience. I've seen hundreds, thousands of people make the transition, and I want to, enable others to do that too.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will be very successful in what you're doing. It sounds like one, you mentioned kind of over delivering, which I think is very important in business, to always give people more than what they're expecting. And I'm sure with your book and your programs, I'm sure you'll have a big impact in making a difference.
Well, I hope so. I'm certainly going to give it a great shot. I'm working real hard, which I think is very important to really keep at it. Again, I loved Mel's comment about one step at a time. It's the same thing with the fitness, by the way, and the nutrition, one step at a time. But it's the same for me. I want to get there, but I have to be patient and take it one step at a time. And Mike, this was all part of that journey. Being here with you today gave me a great opportunity to be interviewed, and I thank you so much for giving me that opportunity, because this is an important step in my journey.
No, it's my pleasure, and it gives me great, I feel very honored to have people like yourself that I get to interview every day and connect them. And speaking of connecting, I've got somebody who's got a somewhat similar mission. It's complementary to what you're doing, so I'm going to connect you with them. So remind me, send me an email, remind me, because I will forget.
I will do that.
Maybe you can collaborate and cross-promote each other's stuff. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be super. That'd be super.
So unfortunately, we need to wrap things up here, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Well, I would encourage people to go to the website, which is www.getamericamoving.com, and on the website they'll find lots of good things. I mean, the first thing I mentioned earlier was the 30-day exercise challenge. Anybody can do that at any time. It's evergreen. So if you want to get started now, if you want to get started next week or even next year, you could go to the website. I will very quickly, very shortly be putting up the replay of the webinar that I did recently. It will be available, I'm hoping, on Friday, but it could be Monday, so it's, let's say, over the weekend. And that webinar replay will be available. And there's some great content in that webinar. We've touched on some of the things today, but if people would like to learn a little bit more, listen to the webinar replay. And again, it's free. And as they sign up for that, they'll also get a PDF about strength and muscle strengthening and the exercises that they should do, and it's really good sort of content, which again is free. So these are resources that are available there for people if they want to get a sense of what I'm about, and I'd love to help as many people as I can. If anybody has any questions, they can email me direct, or they could even call me. So my email address, by the way, is Jim Kirwan, Kirwan, at trisports.com, trisports.com. So I'd be more than happy to receive people's emails. I'd love to hear from people, and I'd love to help people to sort of get started on this journey.
Well, Jim, I want to first of all thank you for sharing with us today, and also for doing what you do to make this world a better place and get people healthier, because, I mean, health is often ignored at the, it's something, you only get one life to live, right? So
that's right. And thank you, Mike, again. I mean, what you're doing is fantastic, and I wish you well. And you know, I hope my interview will live up to the standard of some of the ones that have gone before. But, you know, thanks again. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, your interview was amazing. I'm sure it'll be very well received. So thanks again, Jim, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Entrepreneurs Making a Difference. And I look forward to sharing with you in another episode. Thanks again.